Welcome to the deep dive. We're always looking to explore these really compelling corners of history and human experience.
That's the goal.
And today, wow, we're stepping into something particularly dark. We're heading back to post-war America, to a true crime that has, it's just haunted people for generations.
It really has. It's a story that mixes shattered dreams, a kind of macabre, almost artistic quality to the crime, and this mystery that just won't resolve.
We are indeed pulling back the curtain today on the Black Dahlia case. Even saying the name, it evokes something, does it?
Absolutely. It's this instant image, right? Hollywood glamour, this city just bursting with potential after the war, but then tangled up with this just unthinkable brutality.
It really stands as one of the most, I'd say, chilling and just deeply enigmatic murders in American criminal history. A real reminder that darkness can lurk just below the surface, even when things seem bright.
Definitely. Even in boom times.
And that's exactly why this deep dive feels so necessary. Our mission really is to unpack the layers here. We want to get a feel for the atmosphere in Los Angeles back then, after the war.
Yeah, that context is crucial.
Then explore the horrific discovery itself, how it just ripped through the city's optimism, and then delve into the killer's psychology, these unsettling tactics they used.
That's daunting, yeah.
Right, the taunting. And trace that investigation, which was just chaotic, wasn't it? Despite all the pressure, it ended up leaving this huge, haunting void unsolved.
And I think the central question we really want to explore, the one that keeps people coming back to this case, is why this crime? There are countless unsolved murders, sadly. Why has the Black Dahlia case stuck in our cultural memory so intensely for decades?
That's it. Is it just the horror of it?
Well, that's a huge part of it, obviously.
Yeah.
The sheer brutality is unforgettable, but it's also, I think, the theatricality you mentioned, the way it was staged, the specific vulnerabilities it exposed about, chasing dreams in a big city, and maybe most profoundly, the fact that it wasn't solved. It's a narrative that just keeps resonating because it taps into that primal fear of the dream turning into a nightmare.
Right. The ultimate cautionary tale, almost.
In a way, yeah.
So settle in. This journey is really designed to give you, our listener, a clear, hopefully engaging, and definitely atmospheric understanding of this crime. It fascinates, it terrifies, but we also want to honor the human story at the heart of it.
That's vital. Elizabeth Short was a real person.
Exactly. We're not just recounting facts here. We're trying to understand the echo this tragedy left behind on her life, obviously, but also on this rapidly changing American city.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the Black Dahlia case and why it hit so hard, we have to step back. Picture Los Angeles, 1947.
Just after World War II.
Exactly. The war is over. There's this incredible energy, this feeling of victory, but also transition. LA is booming. It feels like the future's unfolding right there.
You can almost feel that buzz, right? Millions of soldiers coming home looking for a fresh start. And Los Angeles, especially Hollywood, it must have seemed like the place to be.
Oh, absolutely. It was this intoxicating mix. You had the glamour, the studios, the movie stars, the sunshine.
Yeah.
It was this incredibly alluring image being projected worldwide.
The California dream, literally.
Pretty much. But on the flip side, you had the gritty reality of a city growing almost too fast. Infrastructure, housing, social services, everything was straining. It was chaotic underneath the shimmer.
A magnet for dreamers, as you said. Aspiring actors, veterans wanting to build lives, people just wanting to reinvent themselves after the war years. This massive influx of young, ambitious people pouring in.
All carrying these hopes, these bright, shiny hopes. The city felt like it was glittering, yeah, with tinsel, but also just raw potential, like anything could happen.
Both the good
and the terrifyingly bad. Because beneath that shiny surface, there were these deep, shadowy undercurrents. For every success story, there were countless people struggling, dreams getting crushed.
Especially for certain groups, right?
Definitely. For young, ambitious individuals, particularly single women arriving alone. It was a potentially dangerous landscape. You're trying to make it, maybe taking risks you wouldn't otherwise.
Housing was tough to find, jobs could be unstable.
Exactly. And the lines between, say, legitimate networking and exploitation could get really blurry really fast. It was a city of stark contrasts, huge opportunity, but also profound loneliness and potential peril. That freedom could be thrilling, but also incredibly isolating if things went wrong.
And it's right into this complex, almost bipolar city that Elizabeth Short arrives.
Yeah, she's 22 years old, an aspiring actress. She's one of those countless dreamers drawn to L.A. with that singular focus, making it big, seeing her name in lights,
Just trying to catch that break.
trying to catch that break. She'd come to Hollywood, like so many, pulled in by that magnetic force, holding on to hope despite, the hardships she'd already faced in her young life.
And she had this very distinctive look, didn't she? Which sort of played into the whole narrative later.
She really did. Sources describe her as having this striking, dark, almost raven black hair, very pale skin, apparently a vibrant personality, someone who drew people in, maybe an almost ethereal quality about her. But her life was pretty transient, bouncing between temp jobs, waitressing, things like that, always kind of on the fringes of the Hollywood scene, hoping for that connection, that chance.
Moving around a lot.
Constantly. Staying with various acquaintances, short-term boyfriends sometimes, always chasing the next opportunity, or maybe just, a stable place to land for a bit, always looking for something.
And it was this image, this striking look, combined with the absolutely horrific nature of her death, that led the press to coin that name, the Black Dahlia.
Ugh, yeah, that name. It's become so synonymous with the case it almost overshadows her actual identity, Elizabeth Short.
Where did it even come from?
Well, the consensus, and our sources support this, is that it was likely inspired by a popular film noir that came out around that time, The Blue Dahlia.
Ah, okay. Starring Alan Ladd, Veronica Lake.
That's the one. It wasn't an official police name or anything. It was pure newspaper creation. You have to remember, the press environment back then, incredibly competitive, very sensationalist. Yellow journalism was rampant.
So they just ran with it.
They ran with it hard. They almost immediately started crafting this narrative using this evocative, dark, glamorous name. It heightened the drama, made it feel almost cinematic, turning a real murdered woman into this dark legend practically overnight.
It's kind of disturbing how quickly that public persona, the Black Dahlia, took shape. It definitely added to the mystery, the tragic allure of the case.
No question. It fueled the whole thing.
But it's so important, as you said, to remember Elizabeth Short. She wasn't just this nickname, not just a character in a gruesome story.
Absolutely not.
Her life was complicated. There was maybe a touch of glamour, the people she knew, the Hollywood hopes, sure. But also real ambition mixed with, clearly, profound hardship and vulnerability. She was navigating this city we described full of promise, yes, but also incredible peril.
We have to hold on to that humanity. She had dreams, friends, family, a real past, not just a victim.
That is such a critical point, and the chapter of her story that, well, cemented her name in history and kicked off this citywide nightmare, it began on the morning of January 15th, 1947.
Yeah, a day that started for one particular woman and her child, just like any other. A seemingly ordinary walk.
Tell us about that moment, the discovery.
Okay, so picture Betty Bersinger. She's a local homemaker out walking with her 3-year-old daughter. It's a quiet residential area, Norton Avenue, in the Lambert Park neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, houses, just a normal morning.
Mundane, almost.
Totally mundane. The kind of everyday routine that happens in peaceful neighborhoods everywhere. Weather was probably nice, typical Southern California morning unfolding.
And then she saw something.
Then she saw something off to the side of the sidewalk in a vacant lot. One of those overgrown, undeveloped patches of land you see in growing cities. Just an empty space.
Unremarkable.
Completely unremarkable. Until that moment. Because that spot was about to become one of the most infamous locations in true crime history.
What did she think it was at first? I read she didn't immediately realize.
That's right. Her initial thought, her brain trying to process it, was that it looked like a discarded store mannequin.
A mannequin?
Yeah. Apparently the body was incredibly pale, almost stark white. That's what caught her eye first and led to that really eerie misidentification. It says so much about the unnatural state of the remains that her first instinct wasn't person, but object.
Gosh, that detail alone. The stark whiteness.
Right. It speaks to what had been done.
So that initial mistake, that fleeting moment of just misjudging something ordinary, it makes what happened next even more horrifying.
Exactly. Because as Betty Bersinger and her little girl got closer, maybe just a few more steps, the horrifying truth just slammed into view. It wasn't a mannequin.
No.
It was the naked, brutally mutilated body of a young woman, severed in half, posed. And in that instant, the nightmare began, not just for her, but for the entire city. That shift from discarded object to violated human being on a quiet morning walk. It's almost unimaginable, utterly shattering.
And when the police arrived, the scene itself told a story of, well, calculated horror.
Oh, absolutely. The details that emerged were just beyond comprehension for most people. The body was severed cleanly in half at the waist, We're talking about a bisection.
Not ripped or torn, but cut.
Cut with an uncanny precision that immediately suggested this wasn't some frenzy. It pointed away from impulsive violence. And the two halves were then placed, deliberately, a short distance apart, almost like they were being presented.
Presented like an exhibit. That's deeply disturbing.
It is. And then there's the detail you mentioned earlier, the paleness. Our sources confirmed the body had been drained entirely of blood.
Completely. How is that even done?
Well, it would require time, maybe specific conditions, possibly even some kind of equipment. We don't know the exact method used, but the result was that ghostly, waxy appearance. It suggests a very methodical approach, a chilling level of control. Almost ritualistic, some might say.
Control seems to be a key word here.
Absolutely. But the horror didn't stop with the bisection and the blood draining. Elizabeth's face. It had been horribly mutilated into what the press later chillingly called a Glasgow smile.
Explain that.
Both sides of her mouth were slashed, cut from the corners right up towards her ears, creating this grotesque, fixed grin. A rictus.
Oh my God.
And again, the precision of these cuts, combined with the clean separation of the torso. These forensic details strongly suggested the killer had some kind of significant surgical knowledge, or at least extensive medical or butchery training.
Not just random hacking.
Definitely not. This was meticulous, skillful, in a horrifying way. A disturbing act of desecration carried out with unnerving expertise.
Were there other mutilations?
Yes. Sources mention her internal organs had been removed and then almost inexplicably rearranged within the body cavity. It adds another layer of just macabre strangeness to it all.
And no signs of a struggle at that location.
Correct. Absolutely none. Which meant she was almost certainly killed somewhere else. Likely incapacitated or murdered, the body prepared, and then transported to that vacant lot, probably under the cover of darkness.
So this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing?
Not at all. This was planned, executed carefully, cleaned up elsewhere, and then deliberately, chillingly presented. It suggests a profound level of forethought and emotional detachment from the act.
The posing, the mutilations, the staging, it all points to something beyond just killing someone.
Exactly. It underscored the killer's sinister intent. This wasn't just hiding a body. It was creating a macabre tableau, arranged for maximum public impact, turning that empty lot into a stage for horror.
They wanted it to be found like that.
It seems undeniable. They wanted the body seen, talked about, obsessed over. To make this huge, terrifying statement, it was a signature, yes, but a signature designed to shock, to dominate the news, to instill widespread fear. It hints at this deep craving for recognition, maybe even a twisted sense of artistry.
And if the discovery itself wasn't enough to send the city into a panic, things escalated, didn't they? The killer wasn't content to just leave the body.
No, not at all. The case took an even more chilling and frankly deeply unnerving turn just a few days later. This is where you really see the killer starting to play this psychological game, actively engaging with law enforcement and the public.
How did that happen?
Well, on January 24th, that's 9 days after the body was found, the Los Angeles Examiner newspaper, one of the big papers in town, they received an anonymous envelope in the mail.
Sent directly to the press.
Directly to the press. Not the police initially. It was a deliberate move, inserting themselves right into the heart of the media frenzy that was already building, almost like a boast. Here I am!
And what was inside?
The contents were incredibly personal and just viscerally confirmed the sender's connection to Elizabeth Short. Inside were some of her actual belongings.
Like what?
Her birth certificate, some personal intimate photographs, and, crucially, her address book.
Wow. That's bold. It's like saying, I had her, I knew her.
Precisely. A chilling claim of possession, confirming their culpability beyond any doubt.
Was there anything about the package itself forensically?
Yes, and this is really indicative of the killer's cunning. Our sources highlight this. The envelope and its contents had been carefully cleaned with gasoline.
Gasoline to remove fingerprints?
Exactly. For 1947, that's a surprisingly savvy, if crude, way to try and wipe away forensic evidence. It wasn't the act of someone panic. This was calculated. Someone who understood, at least basically, how investigations worked and was actively trying to thwart them.
It just screams control again, calculation, challenging the police, almost daring them.
It really has. And then there was the note.
Ah, the note. Not handwritten, I assume.
No, definitely not.
Yep.
That might have given handwriting analysts something to work with. Instead, it was chillingly crafted from words cut out of newspapers and magazines, ransom note style.
Classic movie trope, but horrifyingly real here. What did it say?
It was stark, taunting. It read, simply, "Here is Dahlia's belongings. Let her to follow."
Letter to follow, promising more communication, escalating the terror.
Absolutely. That single gesture, sending her things, the gasoline wipe, the pasted note, it confirmed everyone's worst fears. This killer wasn't just methodical in the murder itself. They wanted to be part of the ongoing story. They wanted to manipulate the narrative.
Playing a game.
A psychological game, explicitly, with both the police and the press, demanding attention, asserting this perverse kind of power over the situation. It wasn't about staying hidden entirely. It was about controlling the flow, turning the whole city into an audience for their horrific performance.
It suggests someone who craved notoriety, didn't it? Wanted their work acknowledged.
Deeply. This was the mark of someone who likely derived satisfaction from the fear and speculation they were generating.
And this direct communication, this theatrical gesture, it must have just poured gasoline on the fire, media-wise.
Oh, completely. Our sources confirm the case exploded into an absolute media circus in the following weeks. The pressure on the authorities became immense, almost unbearable. Headlines screamed daily. The public was terrified and demanding answers. Hollywood itself felt like it was holding its breath.
And the media? Helpful or hurtful?
A real double-edged sword, as it often is in these cases. On one hand, it kept intense public focus, which can help generate leads. But the competition was fierce. 1940s yellow journalism was brutal. Sensationalism often won out over accuracy.
Interfering with the investigation.
Sometimes, yeah. Reporters were scrambling, chasing down rumors, sometimes getting to potential witnesses before the police, maybe contaminating interviews, publishing details that could tip off suspects or just muddy the waters. It added this huge layer of chaos to an already incredibly complex and sensitive investigation. The press could really shape public perception, sometimes recklessly.
I can just imagine the sheer pandemonium. And amidst all that, people started coming forward, right? Claiming they'd seen her.
Constantly. Countless individuals claimed they saw Elizabeth Short in the days before her death. Often the stories involved her being with mysterious men in bars, getting into cars, vague descriptions. It just added more threads, more confusion, more potential leads that needed checking.
Most of them probably dead ends.
Almost certainly. And that confusion was just amplified exponentially by the number of false confessions.
People actually confessed to this.
Hundreds. The LAPD was absolutely swamped. Calls, letters, people walking into stations claiming they were the killer.
Why would anyone do that?
All sorts of reasons, none of them good. A perverse need for attention, mental illness, maybe a misguided attempt to insert themselves into a huge story.
Huh.
But each false confession, even the obviously bogus ones, had to be logged, briefly checked out. It just drained precious time and resources.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but people keep throwing more hay on top, and some needles are fake.
That's a pretty good analogy. A haystack that just kept growing and getting more polluted with bad information.
But despite all that noise, the police did investigate seriously, right? They had suspects.
Oh, extensively. A tireless effort, really. They officially pursued more than 150 distinct suspects over time.
That's a huge number. What kinds of people?
It was a really wide net. Ex-boyfriends or acquaintances of Elizabeth Short, Hollywood figures, anyone who might have crossed her path, doctors, dentists, medical students because of the surgical precision aspect, and then, drifters, transient people, anyone who fit a certain profile or was known to police. They were desperate.
Were there any particularly strong suspects? Ones that seemed like they might be the one?
There were definitely some compelling figures, people whose backgrounds or behaviors seemed to fit, at least circumstantially. You hear names like George Hodel, a prominent physician whose own son later wrote a book accusing him, pointing to suspicious activity and medical knowledge.
Right, I've heard that name.
Robert Red Manley, who was reportedly one of the last people seen with her, was heavily investigated. Others had documented histories of violence or strange psychological profiles. There were leads that looked really promising on paper, but each one ultimately fell apart. Lack of concrete, physical evidence linking them directly to the crime, solid alibis that checked out, inconsistencies in the stories. Despite intense grilling, intense investigation, every promising thread eventually unraveled. You can just imagine the frustration for the LAPD, chasing ghosts again and again.
And all this under this massive spotlight. Public pressure, political pressure.
Immense pressure. Solving this murder, this brutal, high-profile case, was critical. Not just for justice for Elizabeth Short, but to calm a terrified city, to salvage LA's image. The weight on the department must have been crushing, this constant demand for answers they just couldn't find.
What strikes me, going back to the crime scene itself, is what you called the theatricality. It wasn't just brutal, it felt performed.
Exactly. That's what makes it even more unnerving, I think. Beyond the horrific violence, there's this element of staging. A public spectacle designed to shock, terrify, and maybe even impress in a twisted way.
The way the body was posed in that lot, the facial mutilation, the presentation, it all feels like it was meant to be seen, right? Meant to be talked about.
But our sources really emphasize that. This wasn't a killer trying desperately to hide their crime. This was someone making a horrifying declaration, putting their work, as they might see it, on display for maximum impact and notoriety, laid bare for the world.
Has that led to theories about the killer's mindset? What was driving that?
It really has. It opens up fascinating, if disturbing, criminological discussions. One prominent theory connects it directly to the time and place, Hollywood noir.
Film noir. How so?
Think about the themes and aesthetics of film noir, which was huge in the late 40s. Shadowy underworlds, moral ambiguity, the dark side of glamour, femme fatales, often a stylized, almost romanticized view of crime and death. Some experts speculate the killer might have been inspired by that atmosphere, maybe saw themselves as a character, the ultimate villain, in their own real-life noir drama, emulating that grim style on a terrifyingly real stage.
So the crime itself becomes a kind of dark performance piece, echoing the movies.
That's one line of thought. It connects the crime directly to its cultural context. The dark allure of Hollywood, the dramatic narratives playing out on screen. It suggests a motive beyond just violence, maybe someone seeing themselves as orchestrating this public nightmare.
That's a chilling thought. What's the alternative?
Well, the alternative, or maybe complementary idea, is simpler, perhaps more purely psychological. It was the work of a sadistic psychopath who craved notoriety. Someone who enjoyed the power, the fear, the chaos they created, maybe without any specific artistic or cinematic inspiration, just a deep-seated pathology.
Either way, that level of calculation, that display, it tells you something profound about the killer's mind, doesn't it?
It really does. Why choose such a public, brutal, almost artistic method? It speaks volumes about a desire for impact, for recognition, for leaving this horrifying, indelible mark that goes way beyond the act of murder itself. It's a question that just hangs there, offering a glimpse into a truly disturbed psyche.
And here we are. Decades have passed. We've talked about the scene, the victim, the investigation, the killer's games, and the ending is just absence.
That's the most unsettling part, isn't it? Despite that massive manhunt, the political pressure, the nonstop media frenzy, the case officially ended without resolution. It remains, to this very day, officially unsolved, a gaping hole in the crime logs.
An enduring enigma. Are there still active theories? People still looking into it?
Oh, constantly. Theories continue to swirl. New books come out, new interpretations of old evidence, sometimes naming suspects like Hodel or others. Some gain more traction, some less. But none have ever produced that smoking gun, that irrefutable proof needed for closure, let alone conviction. Nearly 80 years later, it's just solidified its place as one of America's great, frustrating cold cases.
And the reason it keeps captivating us, it's that combination, isn't it? The sheer brutality, that calculated taunting from the killer, and that unforgettable haunting image of Elizabeth Short's body in that empty lot.
It's a potent cocktail. It sends shivers down your spine, even now, generations later.
It really does. It still fascinates. It terrifies. It continues to inspire, in a dark way, true crime investigators. Some people dedicate their lives to this single case, and countless storytellers. Books, movies, TV shows. The Black Dahlia is just embedded in our culture.
It lives on, absolutely. Not just as history, but as this chilling testament to the power of the unknown, the magnetic pull of unresolved evil, and the tragic reality of a dream that turned into an absolute nightmare.
So let's just recap where we've been. We journeyed back to post-war LA, that city of dreams and deep shadows. We walked through the tragic story of Elizabeth Short, just one of those dreamers.
Yeah.
We confronted the brutal, meticulously staged crime scene. We looked at the killer's really unsettling psychological games, the taunting notes, the package.
The gasoline.
Right. And we traced the chaotic, ultimately fruitless investigation that gripped the nation. It feels almost too unreal, too cinematic, but it happened.
Chillingly real. And that's why I think the Black Dahlia case resonates beyond just being a cold case file. It's this powerful narrative about the dark side of aspiration, maybe. The vulnerability that comes with chasing a dream in a big and different city. And it taps into our enduring fascination with the macabre, especially when the answers just aren't there.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does a crime like this, so meticulously planned, yet so publicly, brutally displayed, how does it keep such a hold on a city's imagination, on the collective imagination, for almost 80 years?
What does it say about our need for justice? Or at least for answers, for closure?
And what does the fact that it remains unresolved say about, I don't know, our ability to understand the truly incomprehensible, to impose order on that kind of chaos?
These are the questions that linger, and ultimately at the very center of this enduring, swirling mystery is Elizabeth Short, the young woman with hopes, whose life was just stolen, so brutally.
Her story really is this poignant reminder, isn't it, of vulnerability, ambition, and how they can tragically intersect, forever tied to one of history's most compelling and deeply disturbing unsolved mysteries.
Her humanity, despite all the sensationalism over the years, that's what anchors it. That's what we should remember most.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope it's offered some new perspectives on this incredibly complex and chilling case, maybe allowed you to feel some of that atmosphere, the tension, and the enduring questions it leaves behind.
Hopefully it sparks some thought.
Yeah, perhaps encourages some reflection on, the nature of crime, the complexities of human psychology, and just that haunting power of the unknown.